Hi, Hope Community Church. This is Jeremy and Shalisa Walker and our daughter Olivia. Hello. And we are going to go through Joshua 9 with you guys. So just a quick recap. Joshua, in the beginning of Joshua, he has taken over for Moses, and he is assigned the task of taking the Israelites into the promised land, and he has to defeat and wipe out the nations that are currently there. So that is kind of what's going on. And Joshua has just defeated Jericho. They've just defeated Ai. So that's kind of what's leading up to chapter 9. And we have 3 points from this chapter that we want to go over with you guys. And this chapter is not like a super well known one, but there's a lot to learn from it. And so we hope you can enjoy it and learn from it as much as we did.
All right, I'm going to start in verse 1, and you can follow along as I read, or maybe you've already read and just listen again. But, all right, verse 1 says, Now when all the kings west of Jordan heard about these things, the kings in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea, as far as Lebanon, the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, they came together to wage war against Joshua and Israel. However, when the people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse. They went as a delegation whose donkeys were loaded with worn-out sacks and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. All the bread of their food supply was dry and moldy. Then they went to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal and said to him and the Israelites, We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us. The Israelites said to the Hivites, But perhaps you live near us. How can we make a treaty with you? We are your servants, they said to Joshua. But Joshua asked, Who are you and where do you come from? They answered, Your servants have come from a distant country because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. And our elders and all the living in our country said to us, Take provisions for your journey. Go and meet them and say to them, We are your servants. Make a treaty with us. This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home, and on the day we left to come see you. But now see how dry and moldy it is? And these wineskins that we filled were new, but see how cracked they are? And our clothes and sandals are worn out by the very long journey. So the first point that we want to make light of, and what Shalisa and I kind of agreed on, was that this was a moment in which Israel was being attacked. They were being attacked directly and indirectly. You see in the first couple of verses here, they were being directly attacked by all the kings in the neighboring areas. They saw what Israel was doing, and they saw what they were doing because of God. And so they were defending themselves. Now, Gibeon was going about a different way. They realized that physical direct attack was not a great approach for them. So they went with an indirect approach. They wanted to, in verse 4, it says, they resorted to a ruse. They went and attacked Israel deceitfully. All right, they wanted to lie and cover up what they were trying to do. We read that they were actually scared. They were scared of what God was going to do, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. What we wanted to talk about is how you and I, as Christians, we are attacked directly and indirectly on a daily basis. And this is, I think this is a great opportunity to learn and see how Israel handled those attacks. So I think one thing we can take away from this section is where are we attacked directly and indirectly in our own lives, and to be aware of those things and to then see how to go about it from there.
Starting in verse 14, the Israelites sampled their provisions but did not inquire of the Lord. Then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors living near them. So the Israelites set out, and on the third day came to their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. So I think for me, the biggest point that really stood out to me was verse 14, where it says the Israelites, excuse me, sampled their provisions but did not inquire of the Lord. And I think that just is very clear that when we don't inquire of God, when we don't seek God, um, things bad things can happen. God he had instructed the Israelites back in Exodus 23 through 24. God says, my angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. And so I think the big thing to take away from this part um, is that if we don't inquire of God, there can be a lot of trouble that comes our way. So we need to seek God and trust His will. The Israelites sampled the provisions that the Gibeonites brought, and they trusted their senses. And we are called to trust in God and to ask God for His will in the situations that we face and the decisions that we need to make.
All right, I'll continue here the halfway through verse 18. The whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered, we have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them. They continued, let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly. So the leaders' promise to them was kept. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, why do you deceive us by saying, we live a long way from you? Well, actually, you live near us. You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. They answered Joshua, your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land and to wipe out all the inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you. So Joshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly, to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord, at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day. So the third point that we wanted to wrap up with and share is this idea that Israel, or Joshua and the leaders of Israel, kept to their oath. I think that's a very commendable thing. They clearly had messed up. They had made a treaty. They hadn't looked to the Lord. They hadn't asked for His blessing or His wisdom. They could have quickly just wiped them out. They could have tried to make amends in their minds before God and destroy them. But no, they held to their oath. All right, it was like they rebounded. They kind of realized their mistake, and they had a choice. They could have continued down the path of wrong living, or they could live the way they're called to, and they chose correctly. Um, they promised, they made an oath to these people that they would not kill them, and they did so in the name of the Lord. So not to tarnish the name of the Lord. That's why they kept their oath, and that is commendable. Is a great challenge for us. I mean, how many times do we make promises to friends or coworkers or family members? I mean, are we people that when we make a promise, do we keep them? Or are we men and women of our oaths? And that is a great challenge because there is one person who has always kept his oath, and if we are called to live like Christ, to live lives that mirror God. Um, he is perfect in keeping his promises. So I think that is a great challenge for us to be like Israel and to hold our oaths that we promise, just as God has done throughout Scripture, and I know we both believe that He will do so through the end of this world. So that is, I think that's a great challenge for us as we wrap up chapter 9.
All right.
All right. Well, I hope you guys found some interesting things in here too, just like we did. And yeah, thanks for spending a little bit of time reading this chapter with us. So hopefully we will see you all very soon, face to face. And yeah, get to share less than 6 feet apart to share and worshiping God together. So have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.